Sweet. So, happy Thursday again. We are on to our last night of new content. So I want to get to graphics, dealing with images, pictures, and things, loading those. Okay, sure. I don't know why Canvas is upset with me. That's fine. And then a little bit of how we design our programs to work, organize it well and think like in an object-oriented manner for dealing with our game and doing all these update functions and, not having one giant method for, hey, this is what happens every time in our app, right? We need to run and go do this one here, right? Our app XAML. My XAML load? No, the XAML did. There's my code. Here's my code, right? This is not it. Main page, that's what I was looking for, main page, not the app one, right? Having one giant update function feels a little bad here, right? If all of your game logic is in your update function, one of those measures and rules of thumb you can look at is like, if you have to scroll up and down in a method, it might be doing too much. That's a good clue, like, hey, I could pull this out into a sub method, just break it down a little more. You don't have to, but that's one of those things we can look at just rather quickly to say, hey, can I break this up into a smaller piece? So, okay, maybe now I do this piece here. Let's move my collidables. Now maybe let's move these things here. Now maybe they do this piece here and not make it be one giant method. That's all. So trying to organize this a little bit more compactly and put stuff into game logic where the game classes do the game things and then they know how to draw themselves is one approach. So not too much tonight to get through. And then we want to look at the Xbox controller, how we can actually get input from the controller rather than rely on key up, key down events. And this is actually going to work differently because we don't have a event trigger for it, or we typically don't use an event trigger for it, because when you game, you're like holding down the button often, or when you're moving a joystick, the joystick is just always engaged. There's no like, hey, they moved the joystick and then they have to recenter and they have to move left again and recenter and move left again and recenter. That's just not how it works, right? So what we're going to do is you grab a reading of the controller in one of our functions and say, okay, based on what the controller is doing at this tick, essentially, let's do something. And it happens generally fast enough that, hey, we'll catch that they pushed the A button here, which is great. So if they hold down the A button, we're going to do it a lot, right? If you want then to make sure that they can't like spam shoot, if you're doing like the Asteroids game or something, right? Then you need to have some sort of control over that it's not 60 times a second they're going to shoot out a missile, right? Whatever your control happens to be, you can do a bunch of delays. You can say you can only have one missile on the screen at a time. Whatever approach you want to take for whatever makes sense for your game, we can work with. If you're doing things that like give you power-ups and that should change, obviously you want to plan for it to be changeable, right? If you say you can only have one bullet on the screen at a time and then you drop a power-up that says you can shoot super fast, it might not go very well for you, right? Because it's still limiting to one. So those are just things to think about as we start planning for how this should work with our code, right? So whatever that mechanism is for controlling it, great, we'll run with that. So let's do, you want to do images first? So I thought I had given you the sample code. I apologize, I don't think I did. So one of the things we need to do with this, let me open up my other project here. I'll just shamelessly steal from last time, is you have to load images asynchronously because all of this drawing stuff happens on another thread. Things get a little bit awkward here. So let me pull up this one here. So what we're going to do is we're going to add the images as in our assets. So we wanted to say, hey, this is an image, this is an asset we're going to use in our project. So you already have the assets folder. They gave you a bunch of garbage just because it is a XAML app, right? We got a bunch of things already. So we're just going to add stuff to our assets folder here. So if we wanted to say, I think I used a picture of a soccer ball for fun, right? And you can actually double click these in Visual Studio, which is fun. And if you want to edit pixel by pixel by pixel, you can go nuts. I don't recommend it, but sure, go for it. Draw your stuff in Paint and have fun with it if you want. Whatever level of interest you have in images is great. Now, given this is our final project, it should probably look adequate. Again, we're not looking for a mate. It doesn't have to look like a polished 2D amazing game platformer that you'd want to sell, right? This is okay. The bar's not high, but we should probably have a picture in here, some images here, and it's not just squares and circles. Right? That makes sense? I don't think I actually put that in the rubric, so I apologize that wasn't in here for that. But just in terms of what your final game should look like. Didn't I add a rubric? Oh, it's right here. Okay, I just put it right inside here. I didn't add the actual piece here. Multiple substantial commits. We still have time to get this done. I had a couple people haven't formed teams yet that I'm aware of. So we still have 2 weeks, right, to get 10 substantial commits in. And if you have a 4-person team, that's like 2.5 commits a person. Not actually terrible here, right, if we can break this up. But the planning that goes into working in a team is work. Right? There's a lot of work involved in organizing who does what, how do you break it up. You have to design things before you can build them, turns out. Right? Hopefully at this point in your coding career, you figured out you can't just start typing. Right? If you don't know what you're doing, it's not going to go well for you. So 10 points for the game running on Xbox with the controller input. So if it only runs on Windows with keyboard input, that's okay. You just won't get all the points here. But that is an option for you if you want. There's points here. And then the game functionality itself, built with classes using our 2D library, uses our example pages, has directions, has credits, these other sorts of things here. This is probably where I put the points in, that it's an adequate styled game. Right? It doesn't have to be pretty, but something adequate here for game functionality. Right? I think, does that sound okay? And again, 10 free points just for being a good group member. Right? Again, please tell people if they're not being a good group member. This should not be a surprise, right? And what I'd like everyone to do is just commit your Word document to the repo. Just drop it in and commit it and say, here's my group eval. None of it should be a surprise. The goal of this is constructive feedback. Hey, you could have done better at communicating with us, or you could have done this. We had to go and update some. Shouldn't be a surprise, right? They should already know these sorts of things. But this is sort of a retrospective. When the project's done, let's evaluate how did everyone do. With this group eval doc, 3s are okay. It is perfectly fine to be average, right? You're not losing points for being average, okay? So exceptional should be rare, honestly. I don't want to see you giving everyone 5s. Right? The chance that you have 4 people who are all exceptional across all of these are probably pretty low, right? Let's be honest, okay? So average is perfectly fine. Right? Don't feel bad if someone scores you average. That's okay. Scoring someone poor, that's okay too, right? I'm not going to necessarily penalize them if you give them 1 poor. Hey, your time management was poor. That's good feedback for someone to know, right? That's okay. If everything was poor across the board, then I might have to start looking at taking some points off here. They tried, they sort of communicated with us, they sort of did a couple things, they came to one meeting. That's not great. That's okay. But hopefully they will know that they've been a bad team member by that point. That makes sense? Okay, cool. So we'll do that. Just commit those there. So I'll tally those up. And then what we do in 2 weeks, I think we'll have enough room in the game lab. I might need to have like one group sit out in the hallway because of the fire code, technically. Or just stand in the little room that's not a room inside. I don't know. We'll figure it out here. But I'd like to try and do it in the game lab so we can actually demo them on Xbox and not have to carry it, because it didn't work last time I took it out of the room and I think I broke it. Had to factory reset the thing. So we'll try and meet in the game lab to do demos, and that is going to be 6:30 because of the final exam slot in 2 weeks, right? So next week I'll show up, or maybe we'll just meet in the game lab too, because we want a chance to run them on Xbox, make sure they work with controllers if you don't. So next week let's plan to just meet in the game lab for anyone who wants to come and work on the project. We got the whole night for it. No one knew this class was going to be, I would offer recordings when you signed up for it, so everyone should have Thursday nights free. Like if your teammate says, oh no, I'm busy Thursday nights, tell them they're full of shit. No, you knew you had a class Thursday night, at the start of the semester. That's not a good excuse. Like show up and help the team work, that sort of thing. So if we can get them done next week, I would be thrilled. And then you don't have to worry about it for final exam week, because you folks have other lives and other things going on. So if not, that's okay. We do have one more week to get them polished. That's okay. Final exam week is crazy for me though. So it is difficult for me to find time to help you with things, because it's final exam week and I've got all sorts of other things and exams and things I'm giving, and everyone has final projects in my classes because I like projects. I hate tests. And that's sort of my own fault, self-inflicted. But please don't wait until the very last minute to ask for help, okay? I guess that's my ask there. But other than that, should be fun. And then we will take a vote on the best game, and the team with the best game gets an automatic A in the class. Just as one more incentive to make your game have a little bit of polish. I'll just give the people in the group an A automatically because they have the best game. And then we always get better games too, because people are trying a little harder if that's on the table. So we'll do that as well, and that'll just be a vote. Generally, there's like 2 or 3 really, really good ones. Maybe there's one that really stands out, but the teams who just did adequate games will vote for the really good ones. Not everyone just votes for themselves. People are pretty good at that voting, so it goes pretty well. All right, so for images, so we're going to grab our image. Let me go and I can copy this over to my assets here. Oh, I got to do it this way, sorry. Let me open up this in File Explorer. And open this one in File Explorer. And we'll copy it this way. We can do it the good old-fashioned Windows way. Nope, I wanted to put that in Assets. Assets, ball, okay. Now we've got the ball in my Pong. Now I have to add the assets. I'm going to add an existing item because I dropped it in. There we go. I can go find the ball here. And then I do want to copy this to the output directory. I believe, yeah, copy always. So there's a couple options. The copy always will just always, every time you hit run, copy it. It's supposed to work with the copy if newer option, where if you change the file, it should do it. I usually have better luck with copy always. And unless you've got like tons of megabytes of graphics, it's generally pretty quick. So if you're having trouble with the copy if newer, just change it to copy always, and it usually works a little easier for you here. And then to load the image, when the game launches, we need to load the image here. So we had, where's that in my game code here? This was game page, XAML. There's a async task for create resources we can use to create resources. So let me go put this in my other one here. So we don't have it in, if we look at the XAML page, so the actual XAML, did anyone get the designer to work? Is it just me versus just the XAML view?
Got the designer to work, but I had to upgrade it to Windows 11.
I'm on 11, that's the weirdest thing. Okay. So one of the things you can do with the animated control, you should be able to give it that option here. So I think it would work better if I had the design mode. But in my XAML here, you give it a create resources. So it says, hey, when this thing loads, what function are you running? Just like what's your update, what's your display? We're going to give it a create resources function method. Here's the name of the method here I want to call when I create resources. So I'll post the sample code as well once we're done, but if you want to grab it while we go, that's great. So I'm going to drop this in and say, okay, here's what you do when you draw, here's what you do when you update, here's what you do when you create resources. And then in my code, I need that create resources method. And then this one is an async task. So we did a little bit of work with async before. We didn't spend a lot of time on it here. Let's see, that's inside the class. Okay, there we go. Let's drop it down here. So I need to say, okay, I want to load from my assets directory. Here's the ball JPEG, right? And I can just load it as a bitmap. Works out pretty well here. But I need to store it somewhere. So a couple options depending on how we want to work with that here. I could just make a class level attribute for it, and that's perfectly fine. I think that's just a bitmap. Let me go back and see what was my ball image again here. Yeah, canvas bitmap. So we can have a class level attribute for it if you want, or when we start refactoring this and putting it into more of a game design here, we can change that. But if it's a canvas bitmap, call that this is the ball image here. And then I can say, okay, let's do this, and it's going to await. Because it has to load, but I can't really do anything until the image is fully loaded. That's why this happens asynchronously. It'll get kicked off, everything else is going to kind of happen, and then it should load relatively quick. I don't need the demo things here, anything like that. Okay, so that will create the ball image. So then when I'm drawing my circle, then I can either, now my circle class could take an image then to draw if I wanted. We were looking at drawing here. So I could give it an image if I wanted here, or when I make my circle, I could give it something instead. I could use the image. Because I already have a class, the class already does all the collision detection, those sorts of things. If I want this class to also have an image, I could do that. If I want to just completely get rid of this class here and use just the image, I could do that too. Okay, we got a couple options. I sort of like the idea of this just drawing the picture on top of where the circle should be. I think that's going to be pretty easy for me. So I'll just add in a canvas bitmap property here. Public canvas bitmap image get and set. And then when we draw a capital I, right? Excuse me. Now instead of drawing the circle, we'll just draw the image. So we have a draw image option, and we'll give it the image. Oh, we need to tell it where though, sorry, image. So we give it draw image, here's my X, here's my Y, and then, oh, sorry, the image first. So the image, then the X, then the Y. Capital X, sorry, capital X, capital Y. Now, the thing that is going to catch us here, if you haven't had a chance to play with it, that's okay. With circle, we gave it a radius. So the circle was centered on the XY with a radius that went to the left and to the right. When you draw an image, if we look at what draw image does, it says it will draw with the top left being here. So all of our calculations that say, hey, now we can add the radius, we can subtract the radius, don't work, right? It's all going to be based off of a certain size here. So we really need to now be knowing how wide this image is. This gets some other sorts of issues here. The easy way for me to just do that is to just open it and look at it. I'm sure there's other ways to do it too.
If you hover over the image on the side,
Tell me
it tells
right
you the
here.
size. Oh, maybe it doesn't.
I thought there was somewhere in here in the properties that you can see right here. Yeah, so it's showing me, it's kind of hard to see, but I'm pointing at my screen like you can see. In the center bottom, just above my taskbar, there's like two numbers, an X and a Y. So this is a 40 by 40 image, it looks like, best I can tell, or 40 by 39 image. Right, I believe each one of these is a pixel. So it's about 40 by 40. I'm going to call it 40 by 40 because I'm lazy, right? So this is probably a 40 by 40 image. It's painful to do it this way. It'd be nice if we could do some other options. When you draw images and grab images, you can do all sorts of manipulations too if you want to get fancy. One common approach for dealing with images is you load a single image, known as like a sprite sheet, that has all of your images in a single file. And when you want a particular one, you say, hey, from that image file, grab me pixels from here to here. It like draws a rectangle and like snips it out. It's faster that way, right? Less file I/O is generally faster. Let's load one thing one time and we'll just take subsets of it. That's well and good. Our computers are fast enough, I just don't care, right? So that's probably the right thing to do. I apologize for being lazy. I'm just gonna use one image per, and that just makes my life easier this way. If we did the poker game, if you had a single image with all of the cards on it and you knew each card height and width, we could have done some sort of arithmetic to say, hey, if it's the 9 of diamonds, okay, it's a diamond, go down 3 rows, it's a 9, go over 7. That would have been nice, right? And that'd be pretty handy to do some basic arithmetic to get images that way. For our game, we probably don't have that, right? Unless you're like, okay, enemy level 1 is here, enemy level 2 is here, enemy level 3 is here. You could do something cute like that. You got lots of options here. Again, we're just getting something workable. We're not necessarily the best way here. Interestingly, one of the outcomes in the class we're supposed to talk about here is explaining algorithmic trade-offs considered when choosing a particular means of animating a game sprite. Excuse me. Now, we're sort of just cheating here and saying we're going to use the Win2D library and not do any of that ourselves, right? To actually animate sprites like by hand is a big pain. So if you want to, quote, animate your sprite, you can alternate between a couple different images. You can have, if it's like someone swimming, you can have them with their arms up, you can have an image with their arms here, their arms here, their arms here, and just flip through the images really quickly. That's one way to animate something, right? We don't need to work with individual lines. I don't have to draw the lines and do all sorts of geometric stuff to say, okay, where should these things be? We can use images. So you get lots of different options here. Again, we're sort of cheating and using the Win2D library because it means we don't have to do all that sort of stuff, which is fun. All right, so we're going to draw the image here for the ball. Now, again, this changes our bottom edge. So the bottom edge then will be y plus 40 here. The left edge is just going to be x. The right edge is x plus 40, and the top edge is just y, right? Because we said the image is about a 40 by 40 image. Now, this is probably pretty bad. I wonder, can I do image dot? Is there a bounds of the bitmap in independent pixels, DPI, as a Windows rectangle? Bounds dot, there we go. Bounds dot height, top, x, y, width. That'll be height, right? Height. So height is a double, though that's obnoxious. So let's maybe cast that as an int. Here. There we go. So let's see if we can actually use the image itself. This will be, I'll feel much better about this. So then the right then will be plus my image dot bounds dot width. And we want all of that as an int as well. Right? Maybe this will work. Let's see. Like that's the only change I made so far. Let's see if it runs. Maybe we can get an image here. Oh, create resources. Did I not make the function? I thought I did. Didn't you make it? Doesn't contain the definition. Oh goodness, did I put it? I put it in main page, not my. Oh, this is main page. Didn't I do that? Create resources. What was my error? Doesn't have canvas create resources. No accessible methods. Accepting argument first type of main page could be found. All right, what did I do wrong? How did I screw that up? Here's my game page, canvas create resources. And here's the create resources. One reference. Oh, okay, I'm sorry. No, I did not copy paste enough. Apologies. I need a second function here that actually does this thing here. Sure. So we're going to track an async action, calling our create resources function as an async task. It's ugly. It's fine. I copied this online online from somewhere else, I'm sure. So this is what gets called, and then it will call this function as an async action here with this fun track async thing. All right, hopefully that'll work now. Let's see. Object was set to an okay, so it's null, so it didn't load yet. Okay. So we want to say image colon. Maybe we can handle the null handling here. Otherwise, I'll just add 0. It might do it. Null object must have a value. What do you mean? It said nullable. Okay, so we want image. If it's null, not null, colon 0, is that? What was our fun syntax for this? That's fine. That's fine. Let's cheat. All right. So if image is not null, then we'll return x plus image dot bounds dot width as an int. Why we have to do all sorts of cheating? That's fine. And then this one too. If image is not null. If my image is not null, return this. Otherwise, we can just return y, because who knows what else. Try that. See if it loads for us here. Doesn't fall within the expected range. Oh, probably because it's null. Okay, so if image is not null, sure. If image is not null, we'll just have to do null checking everywhere, right? Why not? Oh, I don't have the image now. Okay, so it just never loaded. That's unfortunate. Image, I don't need that one. So it had the X and Y though, it just never got the image. Oh! No, I added it as a property and never set it. Right? I set ball image and that's all I ever did with it here. So now we're gonna make our circle then, right? Have that as the property. So this is our constructor, right? So when the circle's done, right, we'll have a circle attribute. So I can say circle.image equals the ball image. Let's try that. Let's actually try and set the property. That might be useful. Wonder now if all that not null handling wasn't needed. Hey, there's the ball. Okay, it bounced. Seems like it's colliding. I really should speed this up. Colliding. Seems like it's going pretty well. All right, I think we did it. Feel good with our image? Again, it's not pretty, it's okay. If you wanted to trim it off and use like a transparent one and use all sorts of cool things, you can make your images prettier. Don't sweat too much about it here, right? But you can, right? You can do all sorts of other fun things here. If I didn't have dark mode on, you wouldn't see the white border, right? Because it'd be on a white background. But because I have dark mode, sure. All right. What do you think for loading images? Do you think that'll work? So we can load up all the images in your create resources task. Go load them all, set them all here. So this is 297. So ball image.
Is there any efficient way you know of like rotating an image? Because I'm doing like directional movement, you know, where it's like
yeah, to
like have your character face whatever direction you're rotating in.
Rotate. I would have to go. I think you can rotate them though. Bitmaps create scaled bitmap. This is hang on. This is Win2D. We'll try that. Let's rotate text. Rotate image in Canvas Win2D. Wow, that's neat. Canvas render. Oh goodness. Matrix transform. Okay, looks like you can do it. Some sort of matrix transformation. That sounds fun, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely doable. And this then could give you that animation of just rotating, right? If you want to do it that way. So maybe just set, is facing a direction, and then you should be able to rotate based on that or something.
Yeah, I already have it.
Okay, sweet.
It knows what direction it is. I just need to figure out.
Nice. This one any better? Or is this the same? That's the same question. Shoot. This one have. Oh, here's the GitHub page for Win2D, which is nice too. I don't think it's where we found it. Rotate. Rotate. Do we have anything in here? Ooh, look at that. You can actually look at the code to see how it does it. It's written in C++. You folks can read this, right? Well done, C++. This sounds like what we want to do. Canvas virtual bitmap, create a new one. All right, anyway, sorry, that's a weird rabbit hole. Okay. So we want to do controller work and then refactor stuff to work as a game. So I don't have a controller handy. Should we take a field trip over to the game lab? Grab a controller, do that, and then refactor it to work as a game class? Does that sound good?
Sure.
All right. I have one umbrella. Sorry. But if you walk through the UC, you get a little bit less rain on you. We'll call that okay. That sound good? All right, so let's head over there. We can grab the controller, play with the Xbox there, and get our demo working on that. All right, let me stop this. I'll do another recording for the controller stuff.